Welcome back, deep divers. Today, we're going to be diving into something that's really got me thinking. And it's how giving AI more time to think could actually help it solve really tough medical problems.
Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. It is. It's kind of like, you go to the doctor and they don't just immediately jump to a conclusion, right? They take their time, consider all the
Al's got
possibilities.
to think it through.
Exactly, exactly. And so, what if AI could do the same thing? What if we could build AI that's more like a detective or a really good doctor, carefully piecing together all the clues before making a diagnosis?
Right, like a thoughtful analysis.
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually what we're going to be exploring today based on this really cool research paper. It's called O1 Replication Journey Part 3, Inference Time Scaling for Medical Reasoning.
Catchy title.
It is, it is. And the researchers, they basically wanted to see if giving AI more time to process information would actually improve its medical reasoning skills.
Interesting, interesting.
Yeah, and they tested this using some pretty challenging benchmarks. The benchmarks are like they're designed to really put AI through its paces. Things like MedQA, MedBullets, and the JMed clinical challenges.
Oh, right.
And these are all based on real-world clinical cases and even medical licensing exams. So it's not just like some made-up theoretical stuff. This is getting into the nitty-gritty of how AI might actually be used in medicine.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see why that's important. Getting down to brass tacks.
Right, right. And so, I think before we dive into the specifics of the research, it might be helpful to kind of set the stage a little bit. Why is medicine such a unique challenge for AI in the first place?
Well, you see, medicine is not just about knowing facts,
Right.
right? It's not just about memorizing a textbook. It's about taking all that knowledge and connecting the dots,
Yeah.
seeing patterns, reasoning through complex scenarios.
Right. It's not just about knowing that this symptom could mean this disease. It's about understanding the whole patient.
Absolutely, the bigger picture. It's about taking into account their medical history, their lifestyle, their environment, all these things that make each case unique. And then, piecing together the puzzle to figure out what's going on and how to help them.
Yeah, it's a very human process in a lot of ways. And I think, that's part of what makes it such a fascinating challenge for AI. Because, for a long time, AI has been really good at processing large amounts of data, finding patterns, things like that. But it's struggled with this more nuanced, more human side of reasoning.
Yeah, it's like intuition, right? The
Yeah.
kind of thing that doctors develop over years of experience.
Exactly, exactly. So let's jump into the research now. Did they actually find that giving AI more thinking time led to better results on these medical tests?
They did, absolutely. In
Mm.
fact, the results were really quite striking. They found that increasing the thinking time of these AI models significantly improved their accuracy. Across all these different benchmarks, we're talking about gains ranging from 6 to 11%.
Oh wow, that's a pretty big jump.
It is. And, it suggests that something pretty fundamental is happening here. It's not just a small incremental improvement. It seems like giving AI more time to process information is actually allowing it to tap into a deeper level of reasoning.
So it's almost like AI is starting to think more like a human doctor in a way.
It does seem that way, yeah.
So I'm curious, how did they actually do this? How do you make an AI think longer? Did they just slow down the computer or something?
No, not exactly. It's a bit more nuanced than that. They use some really clever techniques to simulate longer thinking.
Hmm.
And two of the methods they explored are called long step and long monologue. Both of these methods, they leverage a technique called knowledge distillation.
Okay, now you're throwing out some big AI terms here. Knowledge distillation. What exactly is that?
So imagine you have this incredible master chef,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And they're making their signature dish, and you're trying to learn how to make it too, but they don't just give you the recipe. They walk you through every step, explain the nuances, the little tricks that make it perfect.
Okay, I'm following you.
Knowledge distillation is kind of like that for AI. It's a way of training a model to learn not just from the final output of a more advanced AI, but from its entire reasoning process.
So they're basically training the AI to think out loud like that master chef.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And in the paper, they actually give a really cool example of this in action. They use a case of a 72-year-old man with a really complex medical history. And the AI, using this longer thinking approach, was able to analyze all the data and actually successfully diagnose this rare disease called Erdheim-Chester disease.
Wow, that's That's pretty impressive. I mean, I'm guessing even some experienced doctors might have struggled with that one.
Yeah, it can be a tough one to diagnose for sure.
It seems like giving the AI more thinking time really allowed it to dig into the details and connect the dots.
Absolutely. And, that brings up an interesting question.
Yeah.
Does the size of the AI model itself have any impact on how much it benefits from this longer thinking approach?
That's a good question. Yeah, yeah. It's like, um, you know, is it just about having more time to think, or does it also matter how much knowledge you're starting with? Like, you know, a brilliant doctor might need a few extra minutes to think through a really complex case, but those minutes are probably going to be more valuable than someone who's just starting out, right?
Right, exactly. And the research actually suggests that size does matter. Larger, more complex AI models seem to benefit more from having that extra processing time. It's as if they need a certain level of base knowledge to really make the most of those extra thinking steps.
So it's not just about time, it's also about having a solid foundation of knowledge to work with.
Exactly. It's like having a bigger toolbox, more tools to work with when you're trying to solve a problem.
Right. And it sounds like, AI is starting to resemble human learning and reasoning in some pretty fascinating ways. Like, the more you know, the better you can reason, the more effectively you can use your time to think through things.
Yeah, it's a really intriguing parallel for sure.
So, another thing that I found really interesting in the paper was this correlation between the difficulty of the medical problem and the number of thinking steps the AI needed to arrive at the correct answer. Why do you think that is?
Well, think about it this way. If you have a simple cold, the diagnosis is usually pretty straightforward, right? But if you have a rare and complex condition, it takes a lot more time and careful consideration to figure out what's going on. You have to rule out all these other possibilities, gather more evidence, really think it through. And it seems like the same is true for AI. The harder the problem, the more thinking steps it needs to take to arrive at the right answer.
So it's not just about speed, it's about depth of analysis. It's about, taking those extra steps to really understand the problem.
Exactly. And that's a key takeaway from this research. It's not enough to just have an AI that can process information quickly. We need AI that can think deeply and carefully.
Well said. And you know what? This is where things get really interesting because the researchers, they didn't just stop at giving AI more thinking time. They actually experimented with removing the multiple choice format from some of the tests.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so instead of giving the AI a list of possible answers to choose from, they basically just said, okay, here's the case. Tell us what you think is going on.
So they wanted to see if the AI could actually diagnose freely, just like a human doctor would.
Exactly. And guess what?
I'm on the edge of my seat here.
The results were actually really encouraging. It seems like AI might actually be capable of generating diagnoses on its own.
Wow. That's remarkable. I mean, that opens up a whole new world of possibilities, doesn't it?
It really does. Imagine a world where AI could assist doctors in real-time diagnosis, analyzing patient data and suggesting potential diagnoses based on this deep reasoning that we've been talking about.
It could revolutionize healthcare as we know it.
Exactly. It could. But of course, with any powerful technology, there are always things to consider, right?
Oh, absolutely. We have to be cautious.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to something as important as people's health.
Right. I mean, we need to make sure that these AI models are safe, reliable, thoroughly tested before they're used in clinical settings.
Absolutely. We can't just rush into this.
Right. And I think that's a really important point to make is that, we're still in the early stages of this research, but the possibilities are definitely mind-boggling.
They are. It's an exciting time to be in this field, that's for sure.
So I think we've covered a lot of ground here in terms of, the potential of longer thinking AI for medicine. But I'm curious, to kind of delve a little bit deeper into how these researchers actually created these thinking out loud AI models. Like, what were some of the technical details, the nuts and bolts of how they actually did this?
Yeah, let's peek under the hood a bit.
Exactly. So let's shift gears for a moment and take a closer look at that fascinating knowledge distillation process.
Sounds good to me.
Yes.
So you're probably wondering, like, how does this knowledge distillation thing actually work, in practice?
Yeah.
It's a bit like creating a Cliff's Notes version of a really complex textbook.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
But for AI reasoning,
Okay.
So the researchers, they started with these incredibly powerful AI models like,
Or
GPT-4.
be hitters. Yeah. Go
Exactly.
on.
Those are the big ones in the AI world.
Yeah.
And they fed these models all these complex medical cases and prompted them to not just provide answers,
Right.
but also these detailed explanations for how they arrived at those answers.
Okay.
It's like if you ask a top medical specialist to explain their diagnosis to a colleague,
Yeah.
right? They're not just going to say it's disease X. They're going to walk through their reasoning, the evidence they considered, why they ruled out other possibilities.
So these detailed explanations became like the gold standard for the AI to learn from.
Exactly. They called these explanations long step when they
Mm.
focused on the logical steps in the reasoning process,
Okay.
and long monologue when they were trying to capture more of a conversational, like internal thought process.
Okay.
And then they used these gold standard explanations to train smaller, more efficient AI models.
So it's like having a student doctor shadow a world-renowned specialist and just learn from their every move.
Exactly.
That's a pretty cool way to think about it.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder, if these super powerful AIs like GPT-4 can already reason so well, why not just use them for medical diagnosis? Why go through all the trouble of training these smaller models?
That's a great question. And it really comes down to practicality.
Okay.
These cutting edge AIs, they're incredibly resource intensive, right? Imagine them as these massive supercomputers that require tons of energy and processing power to run.
Yeah.
You'd be like having a giant power plant just to run your refrigerator.
Yeah. Not very efficient.
Not very efficient, no.
So it's a trade-off between power and efficiency.
Exactly. By distilling the reasoning abilities of these large models into smaller, more streamlined models, we can make this technology much more accessible.
Okay.
Imagine being able to run this powerful diagnostic AI on a regular computer or even a smartphone.
Yeah.
That's the kind of accessibility that knowledge distillation could unlock.
That opens up some pretty amazing possibilities, doesn't it? I mean, think about, parts of the world where access to specialists is limited.
Absolutely.
This could be a game changer.
Yeah, it's about democratizing access to this incredible technology.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's not a magic bullet.
Right.
There are still challenges and limitations that we need to consider.
So what are some of the hurdles that researchers still need to overcome?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is making sure that these AI models are consistently reliable and accurate, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about people's health here. So the stakes are incredibly high.
Right.
Even a small error
Right.
could have serious consequences.
But that's a sobering thought.
It is. We need to be absolutely certain that these models are up to the task.
Mhm.
And that requires rigorous testing and validation
Mhm.
in real world settings,
Mm.
right? We need to see how these models perform with diverse patient populations, a wide range of medical conditions.
Yeah.
It's not enough for them to just excel in a controlled research environment.
You're right.
They need to prove themselves in the real world.
So it's about moving from the lab to the clinic, but doing so very, very carefully.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about accuracy, right?
Mhm.
We also need to consider factors like explainability and transparency.
Okay.
If an AI is going to be assisting in medical diagnosis, doctors need to be able to understand how it arrived at its conclusions.
It's that trust but verify
Exactly.
principle, right?
Exactly. Doctors need to be in the loop, not just blindly following the AI's recommendations.
Mhm. Right. Right. And patients deserve to understand how this technology is being used in their care.
Absolutely.
It's about, building trust and ensuring that the human element remains at the center of the healthcare experience.
Well said.
It seems like there's still a lot of work to be done.
There is.
But the progress that's been made so far is truly remarkable.
It is. It is.
It really makes you wonder what the future holds for AI in medicine.
It's an exciting time to be following this field, that's for sure. The possibilities seem limitless.
They do. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, right?
Right. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We've explored how giving AI more thinking time can unlock this incredible potential for medical reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
We delved into this fascinating world of knowledge distillation, talked about the importance of responsible development and deployment. Now, before we wrap up, I'd love to take a moment to kind of step back and reflect on what this all means for the future of healthcare.
Yeah, let's zoom out a little bit and look at the bigger picture here. So where do we go from here? We've talked about AI that can reason like a doctor, but But what does that actually look like in the future of healthcare?
Well, imagine a world where AI is like a doctor's constant companion.
Okay.
Not a replacement, but a powerful tool that really enhances their abilities.
Okay.
So picture this. You
Yeah.
go to the doctor and they have access to this AI that can analyze your medical history, your current symptoms, and even the latest research in real time.
Wow.
This AI could help them consider diagnoses they might not have even thought of,
Mm.
suggest potential treatment options, and even predict potential complications.
That sounds incredible. I mean, it's almost like having a whole team of specialists right there at your fingertips.
Exactly. And think about the potential for personalized medicine. Imagine AI helping doctors tailor treatments to your specific genetic makeup, your lifestyle, even your environment.
Yeah.
It could help us move away from this one-size-fits-all approach to healthcare and towards something that's much more individualized.
It's like having a healthcare plan
Hmm.
that's designed just for you. It's based on all the unique factors that make you you.
Right. And there's more. Think about areas where healthcare resources are really stretched thin.
Okay.
Imagine AI assisting doctors in rural communities or developing countries,
Yeah.
providing that expert level support where it's needed most.
Yeah, that could help bridge the gap in healthcare access and bring quality care to people who might not otherwise have it.
Exactly.
That's a pretty powerful
It
vision.
is, but of course we have to approach this with a sense of responsibility, right?
Right.
As with any powerful technology, there's the potential for misuse. We need to make sure these AI systems are developed and deployed ethically and responsibly.
So what are some of the steps that we can take to ensure that AI is used for good in healthcare?
Well, I think transparency is absolutely key.
Okay.
We need to be able to understand how these AI systems are making decisions.
Right.
It's not enough to just have this black box that spits out answers.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors and patients need to be able to understand the reasoning behind those answers.
It's about building trust, right? Like if you understand how something works, you're more likely to trust it.
Exactly. And we need to make sure these AI systems are fair and unbiased as well.
Right.
They should be trained on diverse data sets that represent the full spectrum of human health,
Hmm.
and they should be constantly monitored for any signs of bias.
So it's not just about, building smart AI. It's about building ethical and responsible AI.
Absolutely, and it's an ongoing process, right?
Yeah.
We need to be constantly evaluating these systems, refining them, making sure they're aligned with our values.
It's a shared responsibility, it sounds like.
It is.
Among researchers, developers, policymakers, society as a whole.
We all have a role to play.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It has.
We've gone from the technical details of longer thinking AI to this vision of the future where AI is transforming healthcare for the better.
It's been a real pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise, and it's important to remember this is just the beginning.
Oh yeah, we're just scratching the surface here.
The field of AI in medicine is constantly evolving, and who knows what breakthroughs are just around the corner.
That's what makes it so exciting.
It is an exciting time to be alive, that's for sure. And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration of AI in medicine. Keep those minds curious, and we'll see you next time.